come sit with us. So I think we should maybe talk a little bit about some hot topics right now. Something that came across my For You page on TikTok was Zillenigalz. I feel like him and Monet are just like the hot, like couple hot topic right now. And there were all these little clips about him being on a podcast called Don't Trip. And he was like on there talking about like, I guess like his opinion of relationships, like his opinion of like being like a provider as a man and like what that means and things.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about it?
Honestly, I like his thought process, and from what it sounds like, it took him years of therapy to get there, because not every man is there and thinks how he thinks, and the way he thinks is very logical. He's just very detailed about like on what love is, what my partner wants, what I need, and just like communication. For example, I know like most women want reciprocated back like what they give. But I feel like if you're not getting that, maybe communicate with your partner on like love languages and what you guys both like and want. Something along those lines. I like his thought process, and I love Monet too.
Everyone was like so outraged. Like I don't know, the stuff I've been seeing, people have been like upset because from, I guess if you just like watch the clip, and it's like that's the problem with just watching the clip.
Yeah.
Like, you have to listen to the whole podcast
thing
in order to like hear like the whole conversation, and it made me see the whole thing different. I was like, oh, okay, like, I'm not upset about what he said. Like it's his opinion.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm not outraged. Like he talked about, I've never seen these videos, but there's like a TikToker that's always like sprinkle.
I've seen people say sprinkle, but never.
She's not a TikToker. She goes on like YouTube like live stream, and what happens is a bunch of girls go on there and telling her, "Hey Sherry, I have been with my boyfriend for 7 years and he doesn't take me out on dates anymore or whatever, like the love has died." So it's a lot of women who go on there and like asking for advice and stuff, right? And I think what she does really though is like kind of tell women like, oh, you know, like sometimes like financial stability is like it overpowers like the romance that lies there, you know? So it's like she's like, so there's some women that are like, oh, I pay for all the bills, he comes home and he's like doesn't help nothing, like he doesn't clean. So she'll like kind of like switch that around and be like, oh, like, you know, oh, if he won't take you on a date and you're doing all of this, like sprinkle, you know.
See,
like,
but that's not how Jalen made it sound.
I think because he also said he's not a fan of her and that he doesn't watch her stuff, but he went and he gave a whole bold opinion about her and like what she does online, and then without being able to explain what she does online. So I kind of like, why are you so rubbed by her if you don't really know what the core of what she's doing?
Because then he referenced that, but then he like talked about this other creator, like a guy that basically said that, what did he say?
He stood up,
drizzle. But I'm like, so like, how are you, if you're mad at her for saying sprinkle, like why is it okay for him to come back and say drizzle? Oh, she didn't pay for my haircut.
He's just upset about there's something that's rubbing him.
But his thing was,
way.
Oh, he's just standing up for men, because she's saying, she's having this perspective of like the norm is women should have men pay for everything. Oh, my hair, oh, my nails, and all that. Yeah. So he's standing up for men by saying, oh, pay for my haircut if you're not going to pay for it. Drizzle, which is like, come on. I think that was a little like, it's icky, but.
Like it's like, because then he talks about like his whole soft man era, which like I'm all for. I'm all for men like being able to say like, oh, like I want to take care of myself. Oh, I want to like go to therapy, like he was talking about. I care about my mental health. Oh, I want to go take care of myself and get a manicure or do this or do that. Like that's fine, but I just don't like. I never think that you should do something or there should be some type of movement or like this era that's like in like response to something else, like in response to like the soft girl era soft girl life. It's like it doesn't need to be like a response like in opposition to. It can be an addition to, kind of saying like, oh yeah, like also, you know, men also are in this era too where they want to like live, I guess, a softer life or like whatever. But
yeah, I think that's where the complication comes in too, you know. So like women are all like, oh, I want him to pay for my nails, I want him to do this, but like Jalen, living in this soft man era, also wants his nails done, and that's gonna cost him a pretty penny too. Because when we go into the nail salon, they don't say, "Oh, because you're a man, you're gonna pay less." Like, no, you want a pedicure? It's $50. So he's like, I gotta pay for my own pedicure too, and like, but there was also something that he said. If you guys like listen to the whole podcast, like throughout the podcast, he also talks about how his sister like got out of a relationship, right? And when I was like hearing through the podcast, I did get through the part where I was like, oh, he was talking about the 50-50, and I was like, oh, that's not too bad. I think people on TikTok are really like spewing it out. And when it got to like that end where he's talking about, oh, his sister, she recently got out of a relationship because she was becoming an anesthesiologist, and her partner was kind of like, oh, I want you to be a stay-at-home wife, right?
Right.
He made a comment and he said, oh, come on, like you have it set up, like you don't have, like she's gonna be the breadwinner, like, you know, like you don't have to worry about it. And I'm like, so it's like Monet, he's in competition with you, head. Like he wants you to make all the money, like that's what he wants. Like he's like, oh, like if someone's gonna be winning all the money, like I'm gonna support her and let her pursue that, but like why do I have to make money? Like if she could bring all the income in, like, I think that was kind of like his little like.
No, but I think the man that
just because of when I heard that comment, I was like, wait, that's
people
funny.
were commenting on that and calling. They were all like saying like, oh, like Monet's taking care of him.
Yeah.
And all this stuff.
I understand that, but his sister's boyfriend saying, I want you to stay at home, that just kind of makes him sound insecure. Just because she had, like he said, he knew she had dreams.
And she's worked for him for a really
exactly
long time.
And he's been there, and then all of a sudden he wants to be like, I want you to be at like a stay at home whatever. That's kind of like,
I think it's hard for me to completely weigh on in the situation, because even he's retelling a story. He's retelling something that came from his sister, and I'm just like, what if it wasn't even like a thing of like, oh, like this is just what I demand, but like what if he was more so like, some men will share like, that's what I want. Like that's okay for a man to tell you like, hey, like when they start dating you, like I would like my wife to stay home. That's his preference if he says that. I don't know like in what, I guess, like context it was said. Like you can't do your job, or like just being like, hey, like that's what I would prefer in my potential wife. But we need to have a conversation on if that actually works for you, if it doesn't.
I feel like, yeah, I agree with you on that, but in some ways, like, okay, say that man says that and then he leaves you, then it's like, oh, fuck, I don't have what? Because he told me to stay at home, and then I stayed at home, and then he left me, and now I have no money or anything. Not that that's going to be the case, but that's why you shouldn't just depend on someone entirely, because there are obstacles like that could happen. So that's why I'm like, I kind of like side with him on like, oh, his sister, I know he did say amongst other things that
that he didn't like,
that's why they broke up. But I do see it as disrespectful as the boyfriend to say that, just because he said the boyfriend doesn't even do anything. He has investments. He probably has money, true, but like it's just her boyfriend, you know? They're not married. Say he leaves her, then it's like, fuck, okay, again, I didn't get into
But I mean, were they talking about like, I mean, yeah, they were dating, but it could be when they're like married that's what people want.
That's true, but I think it's the principle of him saying that, knowing all the years she put in to be a anesthesiologist. Like,
I think it's worth a conversation though. Like I don't think it's wrong for him to say that to her. I don't think, but he also has to understand that may not be what she wants to do, and that could be the reason why they're not together. Like he has every right, I feel like, to say that's what I want in a wife, and then she has every right to say I don't want to be your wife and do that. Yeah, that's just how I say it. How I see it,
But like he said too, like, which I agree with, it kind of opened my, eyes on that, like, oh, instead of saying like, oh, I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad or mom, say like, oh, I want to be the best mother or father.
It's a stay-at-home
parent. Yeah, instead of saying, it's just.
There's so much stigma on both sides.
Yeah.
Like women being the stay at home, and then men being like the provider.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not, I think sometimes people get so like upset about that, but it's like, it's just because like once upon a time, like our societies were like functioned that way. Like now it's just like, I think things are just changing so much, whereas like years ago it's like, yeah, like men were the ones that went out and did everything, women stayed home with like the kids and stuff. It's not like like a thing that's just like so like, oh my gosh. But it's like, I think the way our society's structured now, because women have more like rights and women are able to go out and actually work and like make their own money, have their own bank accounts. Like I think I was looking at a TikTok and this girl was talking about how like I think in the don't quote me, it's like the 70s or 80s, like women were allowed finally to have their own bank account.
I saw that same TikTok. That thought was coming up to me right now. It's like I was literally jaw dropped when I was like seeing that timeline, because like you don't really think about it, but like until you see the timeline of, you know, like when women were able to like have their own bank account and like just all the how long it took for women to like fully be able to be independent. You're like, wow, that was like only a handful of years ago. Like my grandma's older than that. Like,
but men are so insecure. They don't want to see their women be the breadwinner. And I think that's what how Jalen was seeing it from like
with his sister.
Yeah, because he was really like speaking of her like so highly, which I like love that as a brother, you know, like that was sweet. So it just seems like in that way, he just didn't want to see her win.
Really, that comment, I'm like, dude, you have it all set up. Like, that had me like, you're
right?
chasing something there. Like,
what do you, I mean, like, in your, like, I mean, you guys personally, like, when you think of, like, do you feel like you want your, like, boyfriend, husband to be, like, the provider? Like, what does it mean to you? Like, what does the word provider mean?
Well,
I mean, I know myself that I wouldn't want to be the type of person to like not ever work. Maybe if I have like, I would like my first 3-4 years, like I want to like not have to work for like that time, because I feel like that time's so essential for like a child to like get like really connected, and like those are like major markers like in child development.
Yeah.
So it's like you want to make sure that you're the parent or you're the person there like nurturing that. So I would like at least to have a job where I'm flexible enough to say, okay, for 5 years I'm gonna take a break, or like, you know, like I need, you know, this time just so I can like raise my kid a little bit. But for me, I guess like a provider just means like someone who can like, I can just like rely on, and like, someone, maybe they take care of the bills, but I don't need them to like pay for my hair, my nails, all of that. Like I still want to work, and I still want to like, because I know myself and like I'm a busy bee, and like I need to have things to do. So I know I will need a job, but I don't need to be like to a man, I want to get my hair done. Can you send me $200?
Right.
I mean, it would be nice to be in that position, but I also am okay with working.
Yeah, and if he wants to just send it, then just send it. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, how much was your hair?
Yeah, just send it and say this is for that. Like, I'm not gonna be extra. Oh, you need to give me this, and that. Like, I just feel like that comes off as toxic. It can. So.
Not like your husband though.
No. I'm just saying, like, because nowadays I feel like people expect that, like, in relationships. Just like in
dating.
Yeah, in dating in
like
general.
Being committed, but like just like in dating.
He did have a point with that, like where he said, like, he said, and a lot of that is like about the dating relationship, which isn't true, because a lot of people making these comments to her, they're saying like, oh, I've been in this relationship for that long, and there are some people who are like, oh, like I really want to get this guy's attention, but like he's out here doing these things. So, but he said like, oh, a lot of it is like the dating stage. I get it if it was like married or later on down the line where you guys can have that like serious conversation about what you want. But her concept is about if he's not paying for everything, then leave him. But it's not necessarily all about that either.
I feel like I agree with you with like the whole like provider thing. Like, I would love to not work.
Yeah. Right.
I don't have to work. If you want to pay for everything,
financial freedom.
That's fine. Like, I'm okay with working, and I'm okay with like if I have like kids, like I definitely want to be able to have the flexibility. I think of working, not working, and moving in and out of it, just like depending on just like whatever is going on in our lives. But I kind of think, like a provider is someone you can rely on. It's not just like a financial thing for me, but it's like an emotional provider, someone that is like protective, like, you know, I feel like there's just, it's all an all-encompassing thing for me when I look for like certain like traits like in a man, like that I can trust you.
So we got a confessional in, and it's anonymous, so I'm gonna read it, and you guys just let me know your thoughts on it. So I'm getting married to my fiance in about 6 months. We've been together for 4 years, and I love her deeply. Recently, she dropped a bombshell that's left me feeling confused and hurt. Her father passed away when she was a teenager, and she was very close to him. She's been struggling with the idea of not having him here to walk her down the aisle. Last week, she told me she wants her ex-boyfriend to walk her down the aisle. Instead,
You're lying.
they dated for 5 years and remained friends after they broke up. He was very supportive when her dad passed away, and she feels he's the closest person she has to family in that sense. I trust her, but the thought of her ex being such a significant part of our wedding day makes me uncomfortable. I can't shake the feeling that this might bring up old emotions or cause tension. I've tried to talk to her about my concerns, but she insists that it's purely about honoring her father's memory and nothing else. I'm torn because I want to support her, but I also don't want our wedding day to be overshadowed by this. Any advice or thoughts?
That's a hard no.
Yeah.
Don't let her embarrass you by having her walk down the aisle with her ex.
Because the family knows who he is. 5 years.
That's embarrassing.
He's been in that.
No.
Take the
Don't
ring
marry
back.
her. If that's an issue, I don't think don't marry her.
She feels some type of like,
I need him there. He's like that important
There's
in
feelings.
my
Have
life.
him just in the audience then.
Yeah.
And, like, invite him to the even that I think is problematic, inviting him to the wedding.
There's so
But-
many things that you can do to like
honor your father. Have
at
that
the
empty
wedding,
seat, his
yeah,
picture.
in honor.
like,
How is having your ex walk you down the aisle honoring your father? What does it have to do with your father?
Nothing.
I
calls
just
him daddy in bed.
That's like 5 years though. And he didn't state how long they have been together.
I think what I would do, I would suggest, like, okay, I realize you want him to be there, but it makes me very uncomfortable for you to walk him down the aisle. Can we just invite him to be at the wedding? That
Wait.
would be my compromise.
He said that he voiced his concerns, but she said it's in honor of my father. So respect that. It sounds like she's the alpha.
No.
I agree. Yeah, that's wrong. And if she thought about it vice versa, like, come on,
Yeah, you wouldn't like that.
his ex-girlfriend there.
She has to find a compromise. I don't think it's fair of her to just be like, oh, it's because it's honoring my father that's passed. Like, there's a little more, like...
That's the excuse.
I'm not saying let's not honor your father.
Yeah.
And let's just not have your...
different way.
There's other
Yeah.
ways respectfully,
Yeah.
out of respect for her
Like,
husband.
does he have a brother? Like, is there an uncle? Is there, like, someone that's, like, related to your father that can walk you down the aisle that's, like, a...
Yeah.
Like, I
You're-
find that very hard. That's...
Just because, like, yeah, that is very, like...
Did her dad want her to marry? Then there's also that, like, did her dad, like, want her to marry him or something? Like, what is this
Yeah.
connection of him to her father?
And that's the closest they would get, is him walking her down the aisle.
That's odd. That's weird.
It's a lot.